Greetings, viewers. I have a nice pen here today from Wing Sung. This is the Wing Sung Model 627. This is a fairly substantial pen. It's got a heavy resin on top of a primarily metal component body, so it's a pretty weighty pen. Weighs in at 39 grams. Size-wise, it's fairly typical, fairly conventionally sized. So here it is compared to a Lamy Safari and a Pilot Metropolitan. As you can see, it's just a tiny hair bigger than these pens. So it's pretty much right in the ballpark of most traditionally sized pen. It is pens. It comes in several different finishes and materials. This one is a sort of a thick acrylic in a sort of light olive drab green almost, with some swirls of white that give off some fairly nice chatoyancy. Around the cap band it says Wing Sung 627 and made in China in a very, very nice font, somewhat reminiscent of sailor pens. Both the top and the bottom are very, very similar, with a chrome trim and an inset, plastic inset that matches the rest of the pen. The pen is a screw-to-on cap. It takes 2.5 turns to open. It does post. It's a pretty weighty and substantial pen, so I'm a real hardcore poster, but for those of you who don't like to post, it is a bit short unposted, but because of weight concerns you may actually want to leave it unposted. But like I said, I do post my pens whenever I possibly can. It is comfortable. These threads here are unobtrusive. It does have this slick, some very smooth metal sections. So a lot of people who have sort of problems with sort of slippery sections that don't have any sort of grippiness to them might not be crazy about this. And it is a fairly small section as well. You don't have a lot of room to grip this, so you're pretty much limited to this one place here to grip. But for me personally, it's actually quite comfortable to hold. The cap is sort of got a plastic thread, so you're basically plastic against plastic when you're screwing this in. The nib itself is a nice nib, a number 6 size nib. It says Wing S, an M for medium, and the Wing Sung logo, and some nice looking scroll work there. And it has an ordinary plastic feed. The filling mechanism on this pen is cartridge converter. However, this converter is not the converter that came with the pen. The original converter that came with the pen was this one, and this was defective. The opening here is too large. It only fit on very loosely, and it leaked. So this is not a converter that I could use, so I had to replace the converter with a Standard International that I happen to have laying around, which was a bit disappointing. This is not one of those super cheap Chinese pens. It's north of $20. So, you know, I've had $2 pens from Wing Sung that have perfectly fine working converters in it. So it was a bit disappointing that this was a defective converter. It does seem to be a nicely made converter otherwise, but like I said, this opening here was just too big and not going to fit at all. But the most important thing, as we all know, is how does it write? Well, we're going to find that out right now. Okay, folks, what we're writing with here today is a Wing Sung Model 627, and this has a medium steel nib. And I'm pretty pleased with the way this writes. It's quite smooth. It has some pretty good reliable flow, and is generally quite pleasurable to write with. The problems I had with the converter notwithstanding, it does, at the end of the day, write quite well. Now, in terms of flex and line variation, as you can see, you can squeeze this minute amount out, but this is not a flex nib by any means. But it does write nice and it writes smooth. I'd say it's slightly above average wetness, and otherwise quite attractive writer and quite pleasurable to write with. It definitely has some weight to it, which I personally like. If you're looking for a light sort of featherweight pen, this is definitely not the pen for you. If you're looking for a relatively inexpensive pen that has some decent heft to it, but yet is not such a large pen, you might want to give this one a try. It's really got some nice weight to it. So there we go. That's about all I have to say about this particular pen. Let's talk about this ink a little bit though. Okay, this ink is Colorverse Spirit. And as most Colorverse inks go, this comes as part of a 2-ink set. In this case, it was this box set. It's Opportunity and Spirit. So what they do is they give you a large bottle and a small bottle in the same package. So in this case, the large bottle was the Opportunity, which is this purple ink. So you get 65 millimeters of the large bottle, and then in the Spirit, you get 15 milliliters. This bottle is too small to get most nibs in. I was actually able to get this one in, but that was pretty much the only, pretty much one of the, it was difficult. It was definitely challenging to get it in. Any bigger, it really wouldn't have fit at all. One thing I'm curious about is how does Colorverse decide in these sets which ink gets the big bottle and which ink gets the small bottle? Because frankly, in this set, I actually think this Spirit is a nicer and more interesting color than this Opportunity. So if it was up to me, I would have switched these. But hey, again, not clear to me how they make that decision. I find it a little interesting. And like I said, this is only available, I believe, in the set and in this little 15 milliliter bottle. I don't believe it's available any other way. So about the ink in particular, so like we said, this is Colorverse Spirit. This is a very, very, very nice, very sort of saturated green, sort of a very vivid green that does a bit of nice sort of shading, as you can see on this Rhodia paper. Let's check it out on Tomoe River paper as well and see how that looks. So as we said before, this is Colorverse Spirit. And this is on Tomoe River paper. And this clearly looks pretty nice. Definitely getting shading. And looks pretty good. Let's give it a couple of minutes to dry, and we can look at this in a little more detail. Okay, now that ink has dried, it's looking pretty good on this Tomoe River paper, as you can see. We definitely have a nice amount of shading and color variation here, ranging from this sort of palish aqua green to this deep emerald green, etc. So it actually, the variation on here really is looking really nice. It might not be easy for the camera to pick it up either, but there is a tiny, tiny bits of sheen. I wouldn't call it a sheening ink, but there's definitely some sheening around the edges in the more saturated parts of it. So this is definitely an interesting ink, and an ink with character, and one that I like quite a bit. And like most of the Colorverse inks, they actually dry quite quickly. You're not getting smearing, and you're not getting bleed through on the Tomoe River paper, which is pretty much what you would expect. So anyway, I think that will just about do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and give us a thumbs up or two. That's always much appreciated. And as always, until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.